History's last megabeast, the sloth that time forgot. Intro. What if I told you that the Great Pyramid of Giza is younger than the last Ice Age giant? For thousands of years after mammoths and saber-toothed cats vanished, a secret survivor from that lost world was hiding out, not in a frozen wasteland, but in paradise. This is the story of a megabeast that time forgot, and the 4,000-year-old cold case of its disappearance. Section 1. The Age of Giants. To understand this unlikely survivor, we have to go back to the Ice Age. This was the age of megafauna, a time when colossal mammals ruled the earth. Herds of mammoths shook the ground, and among them was one of the strangest of all, the giant ground sloth. Forget the slow, small tree sloths of today. Their ancient relatives were entirely different beasts. On the American continents, giants like Megatherium grew as large as modern elephants. Rearing up on powerful hind legs, they used massive claws to shred trees for food. For millions of years, they were a fixture of the prehistoric world. But no dynasty lasts forever. Section 2. The Great Dying. Around 12,000 years ago, the world changed, and fast. The great ice sheets retreated, and the open grasslands the megafauna relied on began to shrink. But this time, something was different. A new, relentlessly adaptable predator was spreading across the Americas: humans. The megafauna had evolved without pressure from tool-wielding hunters. Their size, once a great defense, now made them a slow, obvious target. At sites in Argentina, archaeologists have found the bones of a giant sloth with the unmistakable cut marks of human tools. It was a lethal combination. Caught between a changing climate and ruthlessly efficient hunters, the megafauna on the continents didn't stand a chance. By about 10,000 years ago, the Age of Giants was over. The book had seemingly closed on the giant sloths. Or so we thought. Section 3. A Lost World. To find the final chapter, we have to leave the continents and journey into the Caribbean. Here, on the islands of Cuba and Hispaniola, a totally different story was playing out. This was a world apart, a sanctuary. And it was home to a different kind of ground sloth. These weren't elephant-sized titans. The Caribbean ground sloths, like megalichnous rodents, were smaller, some only the size of a large sheep, and perhaps more agile. They had lived here for tens of thousands of years in total isolation. And here's the incredible part: while their continental cousins were wiped out, the Caribbean sloths just kept going. They lived on for more than 5,000 years longer than any other giant sloth. They were ghosts of the Ice Age, persisting deep into the age of humanity. So what was their secret? How did this Ice Age relic survive, completely unaware that its entire world had vanished? CTA, before we solve this ancient cold case, take a moment to subscribe. We explore history's greatest forgotten mysteries every week, and you won't want to miss what's next. Section 4. The Investigation. To solve this puzzle, scientists became detectives. The first clue was the timeline. Using radiocarbon dating, they got a shock. The last known sloth fossil from Cuba is dated to just 4,200 years ago. That's more than 1,000 years after the Great Pyramid of Giza was completed. While human civilization was flourishing, an Ice Age megabeast was still shuffling through the forests of Cuba. The second clue was the location. The islands of Cuba and Hispaniola were refugium, an isolated area where a species can survive through otherwise catastrophic conditions. While the mainland was being reshaped by climate change and human hunters, the Caribbean was a sanctuary, completely cut off by the ocean. This leads to the final clue, the absence of a suspect. On the mainland, humans drove the extinction. But the first people didn't settle these islands until around 6,000 years ago. The picture became clear. The Caribbean ground sloths survived because they were lucky. They were protected by the one thing that could hold back the tide of extinction, the ocean. Section 5, Paradise Lost, but this story doesn't have a happy ending. They survived the Ice Age, but they aren't here today. So what finally killed a creature that had cheated death for 5,000 years? The answer is written in our own history. Around 6,000 years ago, the sloth's splendid isolation ended. Humans, likely in dugout canoes, finally arrived. For the Caribbean ground sloth, which had evolved for millennia without any major predators, this was a catastrophe. These animals would have had no fear of people. They were slow, easy targets. But it wasn't just the hunting. The arriving people cleared forests for agriculture, devastating the landscape for a small, vulnerable island population. The timing is the final, damning piece of evidence. There were no major climate events or natural disasters in that period. The sloth's extinction follows the human colonization timeline almost perfectly. The very isolation that had protected them for so long ultimately made them fatally naive and vulnerable. Conclusion: the story of the Caribbean ground sloth is a ghost story. It's the tale of a creature that outlived its own epoch, a survivor from a lost world hiding just out of sight. It wasn't the dramatic end of the Ice Age that claimed the last of the giant sloths, but the quiet arrival of people on a tranquil shore. Its final chapter is a stark reminder of how fragile island ecosystems are, and the profound impact of humanity's expansion across the globe. The last giant sloth didn't die in the frozen twilight of the Pleistocene. It vanished in the warm sunshine of the Caribbean, a final, forgotten casualty, reminding us that even paradise can be a fragile thing.